Hello, everybody. You are about to experience another First Fridays with the Crossroads crew. Whether you're joining us live or watching the replay on YouTube, we are glad you are here. Grab a beverage of your choice, take a deep breath, and Brad Ward, let's screw it up.
We are the Crossroads crew, bringing that fire to you. From the dorms to the boardrooms to raise up the you. Raise up the you. Every day we see it through. Higher ed dreams coming true. Brad Ward, drop the beat, let the whole place move. Crossroads crew.
But who wants to jump in? We need to talk Olympics for a little bit.
So I'll jump in. I got two quick stories. One, when I was a kid, my dad, his best friend was the athletic trainer for the bobsled team. And so I actually had a chance when I was 12-ish or so to go bobsledding with some of the Olympians, which was really cool. But my other favorite event, though, it has to be speed skating. I mean, those people are going around 50, 60 miles per hour on the ice, crash.
I'm still picturing Ryan in a bobsled.
Yeah. But I was a little younger, little thinner, so.
I'm a curling
like
guy.
curling.
I do like curling. That's kind of my thing. But what are you guys?
I gotta be honest. I just found out the Olympics were happening on Monday, and it gets worse. I thought they were in Los Angeles, and I was like, "Why are the Winter Olympics in Los Angeles?" But I'm locked in now. I think the kids and I will watch. Opening ceremonies are tonight, correct?
I believe tonight.
Tonight.
Okay, so I think the family's
NBC Peacock.
Okay. Oh, I don't have that, so
NBC would be fine.
I'll get a 7-day trial.
I'll find you a link.
Give me a login.
I've always got a link. I'll find you a link.
Carlos is out there saying curling all day.
No, hockey.
Yes.
Come on. I am super jacked to see Canada and the U.S.
Oh.
I mean, come on. Like, hockey by far and away is the best sport live, by the way. If you've never been to a live hockey game, especially an NHL game, you absolutely have to go. But I get stoked for that. And then ski jumping. That ski jumping stuff
ski
is
jumping.
just
I forgot about
ridiculous to see how high they get up. Off
ski
those jumps.
jumping.
100%.
Figure skating, I think, is another one that a lot of people. I mean, I think when I was a kid, I remember that being a big, figure skating competitive. What's the one that's not skeleton?
Skeleton's the scary one.
Skeleton
On your
is
belly, face first.
300 miles an hour
Yeah.
down that thing.
That and then the double luge, where two people
Okay,
on a
double
little
luge.
sled
On a little sled and going
Which-
60 miles plus
yeah,
per
that's-
hour
that's
on
fun.
ice.
Who's our downhill skier that
Lindsey Vonn.
is she still
Yeah,
she
she's
She
still
raced yesterday. She did a
with,
practice
like doesn't
run,
she have like
A torn ACL.
four torn ACLs and
Pretty
she's
much.
still it's unreal.
Got injured last week.
Yeah.
As
And
well.
she's still skiing.
She's
Wow.
still skiing.
Unbelievable. Is anybody in the chat popping in, letting us know
Yeah,
what
Lindsay
Yeah,
Vonn
let us know what your
downhill
favorite
will be a
event
crazy
is.
watch.
Has anybody been to Italy, by the way, guys? Have any of you been to Italy?
I
I've
have
been there a couple
not.
times.
Have you been to Milan or have you been to
I've been in that
Cortina where they're
area.
gonna do it?
not that place immediately, but that area.
you've not been to that area when we
No.
were just talking about
Rome, and then we shot
155
to
countries?
Venice, and then second time Rome, and we hugged the coast over to Monaco. So
Fancy.
a
Yeah.
quick question.
No,
All
no
right, so Brad recently had a post on LinkedIn talking about
Yeah.
his passports. He's coming on 155th trip, I think, overseas. Anybody watching live today, jump in the chat. Can anybody beat that? Has anyone
I
been
know it's
to more than 150?
If Stefano's here from Lynn, I one time like humble bragged, like, yeah, I just hit my 50th country, and he was like, that's cool. I'm at 94 or something like that. So like doubled me.
Oh,
And so
that's
I know
crazy.
Stefano has me beat, also from Italy, so he's
Oh,
probably very
gosh.
excited for the
I've
Winter Olympics.
Maybe been to 2 or 3.
Yeah.
I think
That's-
tops.
So
Quick question back on the Olympics. We still got a little bit of time here. Is there anything, because I've not been following this closely, are there any new events? I think that's something
yeah.
like typically with the summer games, like there's always something, ping pong gets introduced or,
Yeah.
different. Are there any new
So there's mixed
winter,
team skeleton. I know that's
which is somewhat,
new.
okay, so that's
There's
somewhat new.
women's doubles luge and there's women's individual large hill. I don't know what the difference is between large hill and small hill ski jumping.
what do we know
But
about
there's 8 new
Skimo?
events. I looked it up and that's what the number was.
Okay,
So,
Skimo? What-
Skimo. I'm just seeing a post here on the
Well,
Reddit.
I listened to a lot of
Like
Skimo
skee-ball?
back in the early 90s. I listened to a lot of Skimo. But I don't know.
No, that was ski low.
Oh, Skilo. My bad.
You do wish you were taller.
Yeah,
Snoop.
I
I
do.
know.
Looking like some kind of relay with transitions, changing out of skis, perhaps. I don't know.
Okay.
It's going to be one of those things
We
where
need to do some
everybody in
research.
a week
We'll
is
find that
talking
out.
about schemo.
Schemo. I need
There's
everybody
an uphill,
watching.
There's an ascent, there's a short uphill, there's a descent. The schemo stages.
Okay. Our
You
job.
heard it here first.
You heard it here
everybody.
first, and
Schemo.
our job is to learn about schemo. Okay, we're getting into segment number 2.
All right.
We're going to transition into what we've been hearing. So we're going to spend a little bit of time, things we're hearing out on the road. I don't know who wants to jump in first on this one,
You
but
got on the road
I'll
like
jump
crazy,
on. I've been on
yeah.
the road. So Soup and I were at the CCCU conference last week.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the Coalition of Christian Colleges and Universities. And they just did a big research that they launched. I think the first time they've done research since 2009. And what was interesting, and I think this might apply to a lot of privates, and quite honestly, everybody, the number one thing that parents and students wanted to hear about was affordability. And I thought that was really interesting. And even like, I think when they had that research, number 1 and number 2 had to do with affordability. And so I think that any messaging that we can do, especially in yield season, to really communicate the affordability, especially at privates when that number sticker price is not what most students are going to experience. We've really got to get our act together in the way that we position our tuition page, the way that we talk about money. So
Yeah, and I would add to that, like I did a training workshop at Butler University a couple of days ago, and we were talking about that exact topic there. And I really hit on this idea that we all value different things, right? There's this idea of like, well, what's our value proposition, or what?
Right.
Everybody values different things. So your value proposition is not going to be the same thing, right? For every single student and every single family. And this is where the ability to generate engagement from students and families once they've got their financial aid award, so you can better understand, okay, do they understand how any of this part of the process works? Do they have a plan on how they plan to pay for college?
Right.
Even if that's like kind of, we have a little bit, we have a complete plan of how we're going to pay for it. Do we have numbers in mind? All of that. But it's really understanding what they value. I think for you to be able, especially if you work at a private, to have a conversation that's going to help them understand, if at the end of the day I have to pay more, why should I pay more?
right.
I was at an institution yesterday. Spent 4 or 5 hours with marketing and admissions, and a decent chunk around one of our upcoming topics, yield. But we were talking specifically about yield based on financial situation of families, and high income families versus low income families, and yield obviously is different across the board. But if you're not having conversations about how are we approaching families differently as well, because a very high income family who's not eligible for FAFSA, et cetera, they need to hear different things from you than a family who, I'm a first generation college student. And I remember we just didn't really know, like you get this letter and you get offered these loans and you go for it. And I think education and information have to be paramount as a part of the institution's strategy and plan for helping students, because I think, one of the worst things you can do is bring a bunch of kids in who can't afford it, and then it becomes a retention issue as well. And so it's finding right fit, it's chasing that tuition revenue, but ultimately, like you have to acknowledge that every family's in a different spot and has different questions.
Both of you guys use 2 words that I want to kind of underline: value. So affordability has to go with value. There needs to be you can't use cheap. You can't talk about those types of things. You have to talk about value, and the fact that even if your price is a little bit higher, that value, that sometimes will actually make the difference. And so you've got to communicate that.
Well, you got to have the value, but you also have the outcomes and show, right?
Exactly.
Proof that, hey, this investment that I'm making is going to lead to XYZ outcome and all. So, and I think too, I've had a lot of talks with folks about other revenue streams, and we know international recruitment is down a little bit too. And so looking at different pipelines to bring those students in, like Brad said, we'll talk a little bit about yield here in a few, but that's some other stuff that I've definitely been here too.
Yeah. And I would add that, tying in with this financial aid conversation, the other thing I've been hearing a lot as I've been on the road as well is just, all right, if I'm an admissions counselor, or I'm anybody who recruits students, it's the idea of, well, what's going on behind the scenes, aka what is enrollment marketing sending out? And then how do I'll say, fill in the blanks, meaning how do I do outreach to different admitted students and families to try to understand, right, some of the things that we just brought up and talked about. Like if you're listening to this, whether you're a leader or you're a recruiter, it is so important that you don't just rely on the communications that are being sent by enrollment marketing, that you also do your own proactive outreach and try to ask questions like, hey, what do you think makes a college worth the investment, right? Or, hey, how are you feeling about like the financial aid part of this process and like having to pay for college? That dialogue is so crucial. And if it's not happening, right, it's going to be much harder at the end of the day to get a student to want to take that final step and deposit.
Yeah.
I was just going to say one thing to keep in mind and remember. I think when we get heavy into yield season, we often see it only through our lens on the college university side, not to forget about the lens from the student and the family. We do all these things leading up to being admitted, excitement. And for some families, it can almost feel like, the chair gets pulled out from under them when they get that package, that financial aid package, and then see the reality of what they're up against. So kind of keep that in mind. We're close to the end on this segment. Want to do a quick pulse check?
I was just going to say, people, schools we work with, I constantly say this and they're probably sick of hearing me, but can I get in? Will I fit in? Can I afford you? Do you have my major?
Yep.
Answer those 4 questions to start and then go from there.
Everywhere.
But you have to answer the can I afford you?
Yep.
Love it. Okay, before we go into this next segment, everybody in the chat, why don't you post one thing that's been on your mind a lot this week? This is about us sharing with each other anything that's happening, going on. We'd love to hear about that in the chat. As we transition into yield, we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about yield. We've got a good 8 minutes here that we can spend on this. So first, I'm going to kick it over to Jeremy to start us off with a little bit of discussion on yield.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about admitted student events because it's obviously timely. You can call them accepted student, admitted student, whatever you want to call them at your institution. Things that I would encourage people listening to be mindful of, right? You need to be able to break down each part of the process that goes into, I'll say, the planning and execution of any admitted or accepted students day, meaning step 1, right? Look at the messaging that is going out to students once they sign up, right? Ahead of the visit. If it is all transactional, if it is all just, hey, here's the directions, here's like all the things that you're ultimately going to do throughout the day, that's fine. But you're missing an opportunity to learn something about some of your students, for example, who are going to be there ahead of time, and then potentially incorporate that and make their experience feel a little bit more memorable. And then I would also argue there needs to be within your content something exclusively for parents. I mean, colleges, it continues to blow my mind, right? I was, again, as I shared at Butler this week, and I asked 2 of the staff that were in the room who have, are parents who just went through this process, hey, how many of these colleges actually communicated with you separately and didn't just CC you or actually did stuff at events you went to? Both of them were like, yeah, 0, literally 0. And this continues to be a problem. It does not feel personal when you just CC or you just make a parent feel like they're the tag along when they come to campus for an event. And so the last thing I would say before, you guys chime in is just how do you also leverage students who are going to be at your accepted student day who have already deposited or who have already decided they're coming to your school and are so excited, right, that they can absolutely influence these admitted but undecided students. I'm finding a lot of colleges aren't having that dialogue and they're not leveraging these students who absolutely could be influencers of other students.
Yeah, one thing I'll just say on that, just plug to my old team, Zemi, like they'll do things where now all of those admitted students that'll come in, there could be like a Zemi table during the event. Yeah. And, they're there just like all fired up because they've known each other for months. Yep. And then you've got other students that maybe never really were a part of that community that are looking at that like, well, wait a minute, how do I get? So then they want to be a part of it. So lots of different ways. I know Brad does a lot of cool things in that area as well.
So. I'll just throw this one out. Google your institution name plus admitted students. So blank university admitted students or admitted student, whatever. Get to your admitted student page on your .edu. If you're leading with deposit and orientation and parking pass, your families and the students are not there. We are now in decision period. I am gathering information from institutions. I am gathering aid packages. I am starting to think about which schools I want to go. If I go to that page and you're saying, hey, congrats, you're admitted, send us your deposit and then you can do this and then you can do this and then you can do this. Again, you need to take a step back and say, here are some things you can do right now. You should come visit campus. You should get into our online community or follow the Instagram account, meet other students. You need to schedule a one-on-one session with your financial aid counselor to understand your aid package more. If you're ready to deposit, great. But if you look at historically last year, 2 years, 3 years ago, and look at how many deposits you had, call it May 1, and how many deposits you had February 6th, if you're at the 10, 20, 30% mark, and again, 70% of your class is not in yet, then don't be asking them to deposit today because they're not ready because you haven't given them the information they need. Now, there are schools out there, and we do work with institutions that basically have their class by March. It's rare. There aren't a lot of them out there, but they do exist. And so back the timeline up, right? What are you saying to your admitted students in October? If you're leading with deposit in October, again, I think you just have to acknowledge that most of your families, the majority of your families are maybe not in the process where you want them to be or think they are yet.
But I think that process is later and later too, right? Like you mentioned, looking at February versus May 1, that process now, it might be pushed to mid-April even and beyond May 1 a little bit, so, but it's, we've done a lot of chatting about parents and communication. My niece is a senior at a school here in Indianapolis area. And I ask my sister all the time, like, how much communication are you getting? And she's like, very little, and it doesn't feel personalized. To your point, she feels like it's just a tag along as well.
It's a hard balance, right? Because there's so much to communicate.
Yeah.
And some people say we're not sending enough. Some people say we're saying too much. Yesterday in the meeting, somebody had audited and said, this other school, they sent 3,000 messages. Like,
yeah. Well, part of you have to think about it too. A lot of your apps are going to be soft, and so because everybody's doing 7 or 8 apps per each student, so a lot of people really don't know you until they get accepted. And so we're working with a couple clients right now on microsites to really tell more of the campus life story, tell more of the lifestyle story, so that they get a feel for you. And now they've got a fresh look at you that they can kind of get in there, pushing them to ZME, doing things like that. But you have to remember that everybody that's been accepted, they're not all equal. Some of them know a lot more about it. Some of them are first choice. Some of them you might be second or third choice. You've got to
click the checkbox on it.
Exactly. It's like
on a common app, right?
The process has changed so
Or
much.
they're a direct admit. That's a totally different yield conversation.
If you have different, students, you had a kid 4 years ago, the process has changed so much to today. So it's important to just stay current with what's going on right now.
Well, and let's circle back just for a sec to what Brad was saying. This again is where it's so important, as I said earlier, to do additional outreach in addition to what enrollment marketing is doing. Enrollment marketing is going to send, I'll say, a lot of that generalized information on whatever the topics are. We just talked about timeline. Brad brought up, hey, some of these students, they don't even have all the information they need. They're waiting on a financial aid award. I see people in the chat talking about, hey, our awards haven't even gone out yet. Or obviously, if you work at a public, you tend to be later. This is where I think if counselors are reaching out and saying, well, Jeremy, then what should I be saying? You should be trying to get some answers to those questions. You should be asking them, what do they have left to do before they make their college decision? What do they see as the next step in the process?
And knowing who to reach out to is so vital. I just sent a report over to a school last week. They've got about 3,500 admits. And I said, ignore these 900 kids. They're not coming. Don't spend any time on them. Ignore them.
Wasting your time.
All the metrics, all the data, all of our scoring, everything we know about these families, they are not showing up. And if they do, great. And if they raise their hand or come to an ASD, the conversation changes. But right now, your counselor should waste 0 time on trying to reach out to these families.
Look at those behavioral traits, right?
Yep.
But it's having that information, and I think that's a challenge for a lot of schools, is it needs to be clear to your staff who is responsible for what, meaning there are schools out there, they do all the querying at the senior level, and then it trickles right down to their staff, and their staff are told, here's who you reach out to. And then some schools, it's, hey, you got to go figure that all out on your own, which then becomes a challenge, right? If you're not, I'll say, proficient.
Don't leave that to a new counselor who's 2 years into their role. True.
Ryan, how many questions we got coming
Well,
in?
we got a lot of great questions coming in.
Q&A time.
But this one kind of, I'm intrigued by this one. So I'm going to direct it to Bart. David Ross asked here about 3-year BS and BA degrees, reducing what is required for an undergraduate degree. Your thoughts?
I mean, certainly I think that's something to market. If you have that, it's a benefit. I mean, it's just like dual enrollment. A lot of kids come to college with the first year basically done, and they have different motivations. I mean, my son did that. I think he came in as almost a sophomore, but he wanted a parking pass at Purdue. And that was his motivation for doing all the work in high school. And so he wanted to bring his car. And so I think that if you can market it well, and I think obviously within that affordability that we talked about earlier, but then also lean into that to make sure it's a benefit for you. If that's something that you are going to make as a benefit, you've got to unpack that benefit. And then I think the other thing is that if you have like a 3+2 program where you've got, they can finish their master's in 5 years, use that as part of that reasoning of why you're doing that.
Correct.
Yeah. What else you got? I see a lot of questions in here
Keep 'em
about
coming.
packaging. Packaging is
Timing of packaging.
What's timing of
Yeah.
packaging?
Timing.
Let me ask you this.
everybody's
Everybody's trying to package earlier.
Well, I was going to ask
Right.
you, is there an advantage to getting packages to market first? What do you think?
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation. I have an institution we work with who intentionally tries to not be the first one.
Okay.
In
Tell me
in the
why.
Because you know
conversation.
they're going to wait.
they know
right?
they know
What's not to compare it to?
they know they will not be the best, and they can acknowledge that they're not going to win on price.
Okay.
But they want to have a little bit more time to have the ROI and the outcomes
Right.
conversation. I think also let's acknowledge as an industry, we haven't really had like the perfect financial aid cycle for a bit, right? A couple years ago was a mess.
Wow.
Last year we were just getting our feet back under us. This year feels a little more normal, but normal compared to what, right? Because I mean, prior is only,
Yeah.
I
you're
guess
right.
it's been around for a
Yeah.
bit at this point, but I think a lot of financial aid organizations, departments are honestly just trying to figure out like what is normal and what does it look like to package and what should the process and the timeline be. And now we're in slate, and so we've got to change all this, right? And so again, I don't feel like there's a normal for a lot of institutions at this point on what financial aid packaging looks like.
It's almost like you said, Brad. If you're early, that's great. But again, they want stuff to compare it to, and you're going to be waiting while they go and get those packages from other schools or go to those accepted student events. It's almost like somewhere in that middle part is kind of the best, right? Because you don't want to be last. In some cases, you don't want to be first.
Yeah.
But I love the point that you hit on around data. Like you need to know what your data says. You need to know within your marketplace, are you typically the most expensive school at the end of the day compared to your direct competitors? Are you on par? And one of the questions that I ask in the survey research I do with schools is, when you were considering choosing this school and now the student has chosen it, which one of these related to cost sounds most like the school you chose? I didn't want to come to this school. They weren't my number one choice, but they were the cheapest school. That's one of the options, right? They were similar in cost to the other choices, or they cost more. I would say about 20 to 25% of students are like, I don't end up choosing my number one school. I go where it's the cheapest, right?
Wow.
But then obviously with a lot of privates, right, it's going to be a lot of that similar in cost, or we are going to be more expensive. And so it definitely gives you more time to have those conversations. But to your point, pros and cons, right?
Well, and I think, and one last point, because we're almost out of time here, but Laura brings up a really good point, is that the pressure that leadership puts on, right? Her institution leadership's putting pressure on for her to be first with financial aid packages. So that plays a factor as well in timing.
Well, and that actually leads right in perfectly to the next segment. We're going to talk a little bit about
Managing different generations.
managing different generations. Exactly. I was not in the right place.
Hey, listen, we got 13 minutes in before
let
Sue's up.
me just real quick.
That's actually good.
I wish
That's
you all
good.
could have seen us. We got Josh on the back
Oh
end
my
as
gosh.
well, running. I mean, we at one point were like, "What happens when you put 5 consultants in
Listen.
the room?" Like,
Well,
man.
and first off, none of you all know this, but last month we've got this beautiful pacer in front of me that's got the
Yeah.
timing of everything. It was an hour off for working for me last
I didn't know
time.
Evansville,
So like
Indiana
these
was
guys
Central Time
these
Zone.
guys are giving me a hard time. Like I'm not keeping everybody. I don't have the pacers not even working.
Oh,
So
man.
okay, so let's get
What's
into.
your excuse on this
I
one,
have
man?
no excuse on this one.
He has a PC and not a Mac
I,
like the rest
well,
of us.
Oh, man.
well, I'm on a lot of over-the-counter meds right now. I got a little bit of a cold. So.
I would say
Here we
let's
go.
just go to this comment real
All
quick,
right, what do we got?
because I think it's right about managing different generations. Somebody said staff turnover is a consistent battle for us. Gone are the days where staff feel obligated to finish the cycle and make a move in the summer. Makes personalized territory management more complex as we are switching territories mid-cycle.
Ooh.
Well,
Yes.
listen, I see Kelly Roberts is on, so I know what her thought's going to be to what I'm about to say. But I said it last month. I'm going to repeat it because, again, it will be a hill that I die on. Part of the way to make your staff feel more valued is you have to spend more time with them. There is no solution or I'll say substitute to spending time with your staff. Now, that doesn't guarantee they're not going to move on in the summer to this point. But I get this a lot. Jeremy, why won't my 24-year-old admissions counselor do things the same way as my 47-year-old associate director? because they're different people who were parented differently. They're different generations. And it is so important that leadership figures out how to, I'll say, take away those stereotypes and assumptions that so many of us make and get back past this idea of everybody has to do everything the same way. Do we all have goals that we have to hit? Absolutely, right? But it's understanding the nuances of the different generations that you're managing and saying part of the way to understand that is I just have to spend more time with each other and understand what makes them tick.
Now, let me jump in real quick. If you, so in my current role where I work now at Ardeo, right before I started, they have all of us do the predictive index. There are all these different really unique assessments. And I would just say, if your team, if your office, especially if you're in leadership, if you never had your team do some type of an assessment like that, I really encourage you to do that. For the predictive index, like I'm a promoter, strength finder, like it just one it helps me.
Working genius.
Yeah.
Yes, working.
Man.
Yeah, I mean, one, you'll learn a lot about yourself, which can be humbling to kind of learn things. But two, we all learn different ways. We're all motivated by different things. And I think if you're in a leadership role and you're kind of struggling, or you feel like, gosh, I've got some of these younger Gen Z kids, they're just Gen Z. They don't, well, that's not the right attitude to have, but let's learn kind of what their learning style is, what their working style is. I think if you're not doing that, I really encourage you to do one of those.
What happens when your staff turns over every 2 years, though? Is this an annually summer
Yeah,
thing?
it
I
may
mean,
be.
you got
Yeah.
it.
You got summer retreats.
But this is where, again, it's so important that your onboarding process has been vetted and that you have, and it blows my mind the number of schools when I'm like, help me understand what a typical training process looks like for a new staff member. Most people literally just have a binder with a whole bunch of information about the school. And I kid you not, here you go, talk to your neighbor, like you'll figure it out. That is not an onboarding process. And this is where, to Soup's point, I cannot punctuate enough. You have to spend time with each one of them to understand the way they like to communicate, to understand their expectations, what makes them tick, what they value, why they're in this position, right? And you really have to promote that, I'll say, flexible work environment that ultimately, at the end of the day, yes, we have a collective goal, but everybody doesn't have to do things the exact same way.
Right. If we acknowledge that we're not getting younger, and if we're looking to the generation coming into the profession, I just had the idea as I thought about the binder and what does that mean to a 20-something. I just had the idea of like an AI agent where it's like, instead of that, like, hey, you're going to sit down and just ask questions and have a conversation with this agent about who we are because we've preloaded all this information into it.
Go to ChatGPT.
Spend some time asking questions because the things they don't know or the things they're going to be curious about are obviously different. And, I'm not going to go to page 48 to learn more about this. Like, let me just ask the question again. We're done searching.
Yeah, all of that should now be in like your database to use. Yeah.
Well, and I'll tell you something I'm seeing more schools do too. They're doing what I'll call cross-generational mentoring, meaning they're pairing people up within their office. And so they might take somebody who's like our age in their 40s or 50s and pair them up with a newer staff member, right? So there's all kinds of, I think, ways you can do it. But I feel like, again, you have to understand the nuances of like each generation. I mean, Soup's point to me can't be punctuated enough, right? And understanding the differences in communication styles, the way they like to be managed. I mean, Gen Z absolutely wants more of a roadmap, for example, and it doesn't mean they can't creatively think. A ton of them are amazing creative thinkers. But the way that has to be encouraged, I would argue, isn't the way it was encouraged when we were all growing up, when it was like, basically go do it, you know?
You probably manage more people than any of us. I mean, I just fully acknowledged, like, I don't like managing people. And so I just stayed small as a company.
We've got 55 people on the team.
Yeah. So
I've got layers of that.
Yeah.
And I would say both of my leadership team, the 3 people that report directly to me are 15 years younger than I am. They're millennials. Okay. And then I've got some people that are my age. I've got some people that most of my team are millennials. I've got several Gen Zers. And there you go. And so being an Xer, understanding that, and then also recognizing what I'm trying to just kind of understand the different generations and also understand the quirks I have. I mean, I've got things that I bring to the table that are different for the rest of my team. And so just trying to be honest about that. I've got a 24-year-old on my team, and she's like my rock star. And it's one of those things that we've also been able to connect on some things that we have in common. And so I always look for those places that I can bridge the generational, just because we both are interested in this particular thing or these types of things. I mean, I don't try to keep up with the slang, the 6'7", all that stuff. That's not me. And we'll get
All
to
right,
that
we
in a little
managed to
bit.
fix 6'7".
All right, let's move on.
Wait.
Wonderful.
Okay, we're going to move on to this next topic. And this next topic is a big, huge event that's about to happen.
Brad can't think. Brad didn't know what was happening.
Here's the thing. It's
trademarked.
It's a Bad
I'm
Bunny
actually gonna change
concert that I've been told a couple of football teams are involved with.
Just so we don't get kicked off of the stream, I just changed it to Big Game Halftime Show.
Okay. All right. So we need to talk a little bit about the Super Bowl halftime show. This is where everybody needs to jump into the chat. Are we excited? Are we one of those that every year we're just disappointed? We come in with high expectations. What was your favorite? Prince, what year was that? When Prince
I wrote it down. That's the best.
Okay,
Miami
so
2007. Purple Rain, and it's
In the rain.
raining.
In the
That's
rain.
what I was
If you
gonna
haven't
say,
watched
too.
it, go to YouTube.
Yes.
It's amazing.
But I also loved
Without question.
a few years back when Snoop, Dr.
Oh.
Dre were
Oh,
on.
okay.
Inglewood. It was in Inglewood
Yes.
2022, I feel
2022.
like. It was 2022.
You can't go wrong with that.
Yeah.
If you want to see something cringeworthy, go back and look at the Disney one. Before they
What was
started,
that?
So like late 90s, early 2000s,
Oh.
before they
I don't-
started using, like Michael Jackson was the very first performer.
Yeah, actually, right.
But right before that, the year before, they had the Disney come out, and it was just like Disney on ice dancing around on the football field.
Oh, no.
It's cringeworthy. Go check that out on
no.
YouTube.
No.
All right, so I will encourage the audience right now. If you want to post in the chat what you think the final score is going to be, so you got to pick the winner too, and you get the final score right. So it's absolutely totally random, but you never know, right? You got nothing to lose. We will absolutely connect with you and buy you Starbucks next week. So if you can
Get you
get
some
the
swag.
right winner and the right score, we will absolutely find a prize for you, Starbucks or something else. Just
You
put
have
it
to
in the
post
chat.
it. You have to post in the chat.
Yeah, post it in the chat.
Yeah,
Ryan, you don't
Give me that
count.
Starbucks.
You can't do it.
I'm just glad Ryan went first because now I know who's
God.
playing. So now I can just
And
make
I was trying to help you out there, Brad.
And,
There you
and
go.
Drew, I am absolutely with you. Besides being a Vikings fan, Drew knows that. Like, go
We're going
Seahawks,
big scores
absolutely.
here, man.
Absolutely.
I'm going to say 20.
You know, we just talked about leadership and all, and I'm not a New England fan. I'm just going to state that. But
we live in Indiana. so what do
that's
you
correct.
Can't
You know,
stand them.
but
Yeah.
you know, Mike Vrabel has done a great job.
Yeah.
He was coach of the year, and I think they are the underdog, and they got something to prove. They've been there before, so I feel like they.
Yeah, but Seattle's
can't-
defense is just, I mean,
Yeah,
again,
I get it.
there's no doubt that New England's defense is good too. I feel like at the end of the day, football comes down to, again, the quarterback in so many possessions. And I just think Sam Darnold is in, better shape right
Okay.
now.
Would
in
you
better position.
still want him in Minnesota?
Uh-oh.
100%
We
I
have
would.
two,
Without question.
We have two 24-20 Seahawks. Carlos
That's
and
all right.
Paul are both 24-20.
That's all right.
You're giving
We'll
out
find
multiple
prizes.
gift cards if that
100%.
happens?
Yeah,
All right.
absolutely.
I just had to get that on the
Now everybody
archive.
else will jump in.
Absolutely.
Hey, real quick,
Absolutely.
we didn't talk about this either, though. We got 50 seconds here. Favorite commercial of all time? What's one of your
Okay.
favorite Super Bowl?
Kmart, I'll ship my pants. You remember that one?
Yeah,
Best
that's-
commercial.
Well,
Yes.
the little kid, Darth Vader.
That's what I was
with
just like. The Volkswagen
the
one.
Volkswagen
Passat.
where he's like,
That was good.
yeah, he
Yeah.
starts
You know,
that.
that was like very-
Yes, that one was good. So I've already seen. I kind of don't like the past few years. They released them all early.
Yeah.
So many of them you get to see.
I don't mind the teasers.
But yeah, you get to
seeing the whole
see them.
thing.
I'd rather just wait and actually see them kind of live in the
Yeah.
moment.
Duncan's had a few good ones.
Yeah.
Duncan's had some
Oh,
very
yeah,
good ones.
Duncan
Hey, if
always
you're
has
posting
good
in the
ones.
chat, do us a favor, please, and put your first and last name, just because some of you, it won't appear if you
Oh, yeah,
didn't
good
sign
call.
in with a
Good
name.
call.
So I see New England 3421, Seattle 2720. Want to make sure that we
Put your
get
names
you
to
a prize
those.
there.
And just lastly on this topic, how many of you out there have been practicing the Bad Bunny Spanish lyrics? Are you ready? Are you going to be able to sing these songs live?
See,
No.
Okay.
That'd be a no. for me.
All right. Let's transition back to kind of a little more serious topic. Budget discussions. I think that is something teams grapple with on a regular basis. I want to hear more about what some of you all that are directly working with a lot of colleges and universities may be hearing from them when it comes to budget. Who's kicking us off?
yeah,
Ryan?
I can kick us off. I'm definitely talking to a lot of institutions right now about the budget season, and nobody's ever growing their budget, right? Unfortunately, I wish that was the case, but I think there's always times where you have to have your budget for those things that you need. You need search, You need your CRM to work properly, staff development, that type of stuff. But when I was in leadership, the one thing I always had was I set aside a little bit of money for new innovations and bring one new thing on every year. So I think that's really important when you're looking at opportunities this upcoming year, is to set aside, it doesn't have to be 100, 6-figure amount, but set aside a little bit of money for something new.
Yeah. And I would just tell you the conversation I probably have more than anything else when I'm talking budgets with VPs. A lot of schools are tired of having 10 different vendors for 10 different things, right?
Consolidating down.
It is, but the challenge even becomes, it's not that they tell me they're against having multiple vendors. It's, but those vendors don't talk to each other.
That's the problem.
And then they don't communicate with us. And so then
There's
what
overlap.
ends up being, a lot of work being quote unquote lifted off our plates. It isn't actually lifted off our plates because now we have to do extra work internally.
I think there's a big challenge there of generalists versus specialists. I think within staff, we need a lot of generalists. I would push back and say to have a generalist outside partner is not always the answer. Sometimes you need a specialist. I think of Jim Collins' Good to Great, right? The hedgehog concept, like somebody who just does the same thing and does it really well and executes, right? Yeah. So, I've seen schools try to pare down, but then they basically get a watered down version of a couple things they used to work with the school and have a really good solution. So,
well, I think your point too, that and depending on some of I work with a lot of smaller schools. And so if they're rural and they're trying to fill positions that are difficult to fill, they've got lower budgets, and I'm thinking more from the marketing standpoint right now, it's sometimes better to rent the expertise that you need rather than try to fulfill that in-house. And so I run into a lot of places, and we'll talk about it later, but there's some things that I've been thinking about and writing about lately is the fact that you have to be able to ask the right questions to make sure you got the right people in the right seats. Back to the Jim Collins stuff.
Yeah. Shout out Jim Collins.
That's right.
We going Q&A
Let's
next,
go Q&A.
huh?
Let's dive back
Let's
into
jump
some
back in.
Q&A. What do we got? Anything?
Question on that. Somebody says the problem, maybe it's more of a statement. The problem is when you keep the innovation, you don't have that money the next year. I would say like there are very few silver bullets in our industry. If you're trying to buy, get a 1-year solution. Actually, I had a school, we were talking with them last summer, and they basically said, we have a 1-year investment from our board for an initiative. And I said, we're not the company for you, because we're looking for institutions, average school's been with us 13 years right now. Like I want to work well and alongside an institution and know them deeply and intimately. But some products are we need a one-off. We need a site. We need this. We need that.
Well, and that brings me back to one of my pet peeves is vendor versus partner kind of get all lumped into the same bucket. Yeah. And I try to live partner. What you just described as a partner, where getting down in the trenches, doing things together and seeing success. And that's just my own pet peeve, but that is something that I think when you're looking at those initial investment funds and how you want to do something innovative, realize that to find a partner, you're going to have to sustain it.
I'll say this too, and I've probably said this before, but I think we've been around admissions, all of us, for a long time. I feel like there was a time where it really was kind of us on the college side and them kind of from that vendor. But so many of us from the college side now work and represent like amazing companies in our space. So I think that's changed a lot too. It's not really an us and them and these evil vendors. These are our people now that have come from that side and now are specializing and doing great things. I think
we're learning the language.
Like knowing the language. And listen, you can tell there are companies, there are businesses in our space that don't kind of come from that background, and you usually can recognize that. So I think, are they people that come from us? Are they mission focused like we are? Those things. Real quick, Bart, there was we were just at CCCU talking about innovative new things. I did want to mention one thing. There was a company kind of around the corner from you set up that had this robot that was fascinating to me from an innovation standpoint.
Was it the Boston Dynamics?
This
I
is
saw one of those at NACAC. Okay.
No, this one is, primarily to do initially a lot of what parking service would do, like, managing cars not in the right spots or tickets or things. But then it also was doing really cool safety stuff where a student was saying, hey, can you walk me to my car? And it's recording everything. I just thought it was kind of an interesting, almost to replace all of our campuses have the blue post all over campus and half of them don't work and there's maintenance issues and costs involved. And I think this little robot was called
Campus
Scout.
Police will,
We always want to have them when
on
we're on
Christmas
tour.
break. Yeah.
So just again, I just
system.
thought that was something neat. I just saw from an innovation standpoint that I thought was kind of cool. I wanted to mention them. So
Drew,
what else we got?
Yeah, Drew says here, I heard one time that higher ed is about the only industry that relies so heavily on revenue generation from all entry-level positions. Very interesting concept. I just said yesterday in the meeting with the institution I was at that I'm always surprised at the amount of institutions who don't realize admissions is the revenue driver. Like if admissions doesn't get students in the door, you close.
Yep.
And so academia, I know you're important, but if you don't have students to teach, then you don't have a job either. So I'll ask this: what is another industry you can think of that operates that way?
Not
Automotives. I'm not saying we're car salesmen, but automotives. Now that's different because they are very highly paid based on.
And they get a lot more training.
Yeah.
Than higher ed.
Well, you think about it though, higher education is arguably the biggest investment anyone will make in their life.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about even when you buy your homes, when you buy your cars, and we are leaving it to an untrained, 23-year-old, and that can be changed. You can train, you can do things. They need to relate, but
who else was an untrained 23-year-old?
Second day, I got keys.
Just in this room.
Keys to go to Fort Wayne, Indiana on my second day.
The car.
So.
Oh man! All right, we got to move
Good
on.
stuff. Let's get into virtual events. We wanted to spend a couple minutes here, 2.5 minutes, and talk a little bit about virtual events. Love you guys in the chat. Talk about what you're doing. Anyone on the panel here? I know Brad's an expert in this area with cool things. What are we seeing? Anything new evolving with virtual events? Are they still relevant?
Yeah, it was funny. The school I was at yesterday, we were laughing. We did our first virtual event with them in 2015, and we have 12 people there, and their last event was 500, and we regularly run events in the 1,500 to 2,000 people, families, and it's just here's the thing. Going back to AI, which we'll talk about next, people are done searching. No one is going through Google and clicking page by page to look for information. That leaks into the entire admissions process because families have questions, students have questions, and they just want the answer to that question. So a live environment like this to just answer questions is a huge win, and people will show up and they'll get their question answered and they'll move on in the process.
They can lurk in the background if they need to.
Yep.
Do whatever.
And they'll hear people talking about things they should be thinking about, or they'll hear questions they didn't know they had.
If there was
just touch my leg.
I know, yeah. If there was a leader, if there was a leader out there,
yes.
if there was a leader out there that said, this was great and this was important those first few years after COVID to do these things. We're past that now. So we're moving away from that. What would you say to that leader?
The graph I showed to that school, 2020, 21, huge click, 2022 dropped 50% in attendance for that event. So it's an event that has been done annually since 2015. But we waded through that, and now
so we're right back up on it.
Well, and I'll add that I know VPs or senior leaders who during the pandemic in 2020, 2021 especially, they started doing once a month virtual sessions, especially targeting parents, and they went so well they're still doing them in 2026.
Or they just did a boring Zoom presentation and nobody, and so they said this doesn't work, but the style and what the delivery was off.
Well, and the content too, right? We talked about parents earlier and costs. Shout out University of Louisville. Okay, thumbs up. Still do their financial aid nights. I saw that. But it's to attract those parents, right? And communicate to them on their level and their time. So,
yeah, and also again to your point, not every virtual event is the same. Again, I think sometimes we lean transactional information relay, and you do need to do some of that stuff. But with students, you also can make these fun, exciting, enjoyable. So,
have on-demand content,
absolutely.
Meeting people where they're at with the questions they're going to ask and the point of the process they're in.
Absolutely. Okay, let's talk AI advice. And this is the best time of the show to show some love to Bart, who's got a new book that's out. I wanted to make sure we give him a shout out, let him kind of hold that up. But we're going to talk a little bit about AI. But Bart, tell us quickly also about the book.
Yeah, real quick on the book. Know What You Don't Know.
Can you tell them the title we decided this summer that you were going to use?
He didn't use the title that
What was
we.
it?
Yeah, can you? What was it?
I think it was. I got a lot of problems with you people.
Yes, I
George
got-
Costanza.
I got a lot of
Frank
problems.
Costanza.
Yeah, he didn't use our recommendation for the title of that book.
He
so
went soft in my
I went
opinion.
soft, that's
Know
right.
what you don't know.
Festivus.
Basically, I've been engaged with so many higher ed leaders over the years, and I've heard nightmares of what decisions are made because they're just asleep at the wheel or they don't know the questions to ask. So, and again, I shouldn't say asleep at the wheel. People who are in leadership have a ton of things going on. They don't know what they don't know. And so I wrote a book. Basically, every chapter has the questions. As a leader, you need to be asking your marketing team just to make sure that they're making the right directions and the right.
Make sure you all pick that book up.
Yeah,
as
so
you
Can
know,
I
Thank
link
you.
the Amazon? And
Yes,
Yeah,
we're going to drop the
that's
link in the
fine,
chat.
guys. So-
Now, Bart, let's talk AI.
Yep.
So we had down here kind of maybe something around one or two of the biggest mistakes that enrollment marketers are making when it comes to AI
Yeah.
right now.
So, I mean, a couple things. I think too many people are looking at AI as just, oh, I can make this clean up my email or I can clean up my text with this. And it's kind of like you've got this amazing Ferrari and you're basically, putting it in neutral and just coasting down the driveway with it. And so one of the things I see is that they're like, okay, well, yeah, I know that I can do more, but I tried this that one time and it didn't work. So I just left it alone. Okay. And the problem is I think that people look at AI like it's a Google search or it's a piece of software that you can just type something in and you expect to get an answer back. The way you need to be thinking about it is to look at it like, I have an amazing thought partner here with me, a collaborator that I'm just going to explain my problem and have it ask me questions and we're going to have a conversation about this. And I think that conversational collaboration is what people miss. They give up on things too fast and they're not giving the AI the chance to really help them. They're trying to control everything too much. So that's one thing. And I think the other thing that enrollment especially are missing is that within Sheets and within Excel now, you've got just do equal AI and then treat it like a normal formula with parentheses and type quotes and then write your prompt in that. And so let's say you've got 5,000 names in an email list. And you've got columns C, D, and E are the programs they're interested in, their extracurricular activities, and something else. You can write an AI prompt that says, write a personalized subject line based on C, D, and E, write a intro paragraph based on C, D, and E, and then copy that AI prompt like you would a formula and paste it down the entire sheet. Now you've just created personalized messages for 5,000 people.
Wow.
Just by pulling that down. So powers like that, and you can upload that back into Slate, liquid, do liquid markup for those things.
Outlook mail merge.
Yeah.
Those are the
So those are some real
Little
small
bits.
tips that I think that we forget that you can do a lot more personalization. Students want that more than they want AI slop.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and just if you're out there and what Bart just if you're just like that's went over your head and you're just thinking I wouldn't even know. Well, use Bart as a resource.
Yeah.
I mean, reach out to folks that are experts in this area and lean on them and set up a time to talk or have him come to campus and do a training. So you don't have to be experts at it all right now, but there are people that are really leaders in our industry that can get you there. Okay, let's do a little bit more live audience
Q&A.
Q&A. We
3
got
minutes here.
everything.
Yep.
3 minutes. What
We
do
had
you
a
got?
question come in earlier, and I don't think we addressed it yet. How do colleges talk more openly about sticker price versus the actual price?
I think the first place you need to do that is go to your tuition page. And you need to, because too many colleges just copy and paste their tuition page right out of the catalog. And there's way too many families, especially privates, that dad's looking over the shoulder. We're looking at the school. I'm excited about this. Let's go look at the tuition page.
62,000.
Boom.
I can't afford
Okay,
that.
let's move on. And they don't even start a conversation because they see that.
Yep.
So what I suggest schools do is at the top of your tuition page, have a lot of messaging, have some social proof, have
Show
some
value.
testimonials, say, I could not believe that I never thought I could get into this school, but the school helped me understand how I could save tremendous amount of finance. Whatever it is, set that conversation up before they get down to the sticker price.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we're not going to be able to say, hey, we have a 55% discount rate. We can't do that. But we can at least set it up to say, hey, there are things here that you need to ask and go deeper on this.
There are a lot of schools who would love to say they only have a 55%
Yeah, that's
discount rate. It's a challenge, right? Like I know a school we work with, you basically, hey, if you're admitted, you get $140,000 over 4 years off your tuition. whatever that breaks down to, $35,000 a year minimum scholarship. Wouldn't it be so much simpler just to cut that, right? But we've kind of dug ourselves into a hole as an industry that there's all this thought of perception and pricing and value and discount and there are families who do pay the full, I guess, but
education, man.
Where do we go?
Education is so big. Like, those of you listening, if you do spring travel, for example, coming up, you're going to be speaking with a lot more underclassmen. Instead of talking to them exclusively about scholarships in the FAFSA, which, by the way, a junior obviously is 12 months potentially out from even doing the FAFSA, right? And it's not that the FAFSA is not important, but to the original question here that was asked, you have to educate them on, yep, this is going to be the most confusing part of the process. Everybody's website's going to look different. The prices are going to look different. Please understand that colleges do different things to bring down the price. But here's the thing, until you go through the process, you apply to a college and you fill out the financial aid paperwork, no college can give you an exact bottom line dollar, right? Until that point. But just understand, very few students are paying the actual prices that you see on websites. And so you focus on what sticker price, right, actually means, right? And that's what you talk about when you want to talk about, for example, financial aid at these spring college fairs or at these spring high school visits.
I had a Seth Godin quote hanging above my desk when I worked at Butler. It's easy to be against something you're afraid of and easy to be afraid of something you don't understand. And that I'll say it again. It's easy to be against something you're afraid of, and it's easy to be afraid of something you don't understand.
It's like a mic drop. We need to do
just if they don't understand the game we're all playing, they're against it. They're afraid of it. They won't move forward. Like, educate and inform is vital.
Without that.
That's huge. We're going to transition to something a little
Somebody
more
said they're low-keenually interested in this section. It's a little higher on the chat.
I love it.
But
and actually, if you don't mind,
who put this on? Is this you? Gen Z slang?
Absolutely, I put it on because I'm always so I have a 16-and-a-half-year-old daughter, as many people listening know, right? And so I always make fun of the Gen Z slang right at home. She's like, Dad, I really hope you don't say those things when you're on these campuses in front of people. I'm like, absolutely, I do a little. And she's like, Dad, they're not going to have you back. And so, I try to get this idea of authenticity, right? Like, we talk about students and families want more authenticity, and I make it clear that doesn't mean you have to say things, right, like 6'7", or, all the other Gen Z slang, right, that we all are familiar with. And so I just know it's been coming up a lot, and I thought it'd be fun. So let's go around. Let's start with Bart real quick. Rapid fire, like, most annoying Gen Z slang.
6'7".
Is it 6'7"?
Apparently there's a new 4'1". I don't know if you knew that.
I did not know that. I'll have to ask my daughter about that. All right, Brad, what you got?
I don't have one.
You don't have one? Brad, do you know your Gen Z slang?
Here's the thing. I was at Grace College seeing my buddy Caleb, who's a student there, and he introduced me to his roommates as, this is my older friend, Brad. And that's when I knew I don't even have anything to say on this topic.
I know Soup's got some.
He calls
Come
me
on,
Unk.
Soup. Pick one, Soup.
You know what? It's crazy because if we go back 5, 6, 7, 8 years, I was so in tune with all it. But like now, I'm just so past it. I think my two boys are 24 and 20, so like they're almost aged out of like that.
Ryan, you got anything?
Yeah,
real quick?
I got the young one. So
you'll know.
Mine is 6'7". I just can't get into
All right.
it.
So besides 6'7", the other one that drives me insane is this cap, no cap. Because cap and no cap mean like lying and not lying. And I'm like, I don't understand the correlation between them. And clearly I'm missing it somewhere. But put your most annoying Gen Z slang in the chat.
I need to see something.
I see somebody else put 4'1" in there. Drew did. So
y'all, we got to get to the hot seat. It's time to wrap up.
It is. Okay.
We're getting close.
Yeah.
Hang on. Before we do that, whoever gave the shout out, and that might be my wife. It really might be my wife. Or it's probably, let me see. I don't know who it would be. 41, Do Not Ruin a Great Dave Matthews Band song. Yeah.
Could be Will.
It could be Will. It could be Will. All right. Anyways, back to that. Yes.
Okay. So we're close to wrapping up. If you are joining us for the first time this month and you missed our first episode last month, we're always going to do shame on you. First off, we're always going to do a hot seat segment. Now we're actually going to change this up moving forward. Right now, it's been about just which one of us do you maybe want to throw in the hot seat, put on the spot, ask a question.
This is like a noon decision.
But moving forward,
starting in March,
we're going to try to like actually have a guest from outside of us be a part of this. So maybe we bring one of you on, a special guest to sit in the hot seat where we can maybe ask you questions. But if there's anybody out there right now in the chat who would you want to maybe put in the hot
Somebody in the
seat?
chat, real quick. Somebody who we put in the hot seat today?
Bruh.
Oh, God. That one's gone away, I thought, for a while. You know, the
Oh, did somebody want
But-
Unc Brad in the hot seat?
Man, I've talked
All
a
right.
lot
Well, while
today.
the audience is deciding that, all right, who's willing to admit some music they'd never put on their playlist?
So
publicly?
I put my playlist on LinkedIn. If you
We got
want.
2 votes for Ryan.
2 votes for
Boom,
Ryan.
hot seat.
A hot seat for
So,
Ryan.
go ahead, Bart.
So I had Ace Frehley on there with Amy Grant and like Def Leppard.
Amy Grant and Def Leppard.
Yeah. So
That's
people
a-
were like, I don't understand this. The other one that I didn't put on there was Barry Manilow. I listened to Copacabana.
All right.
All right.
Ryan in the
Mine's
hot
definitely
seat.
Neil Diamond.
Okay.
Okay. I don't want to put that out there publicly, but there it is. Let's see here. A hobby that I'm really currently into.
Yeah.
I love pickleball, guys. Pickleball's been
Pickleball.
a lot of fun.
Okay.
So
Everybody keeps
I just got to
telling
find
me
better
to play that.
teammates, you know.
Yeah.
So
I got
but-
you. Let me know. We played a little bit
we
one
played
time,
before,
and
and we kind of got our butts kicked.
well,
but you know,
that was who are we? Claudia and who are we playing? Who's
and
Claudia?
Tyler's kids, you know.
and
so.
yeah, they
I went so hard on pickleball. July 2021, we did a family trip with my wife's whole family, and there was a pickleball court across the street from the house we had rented. Played so much that I basically like destroyed this tendon here.
Oh, you can, and you can all the
I haven't
side,
played
side,
pickleball
back and
since.
forth.
It's been 5 years.
I mean,
Are you serious?
Yeah.
all right, Ryan, what's
But
the
I did
fun,
not lose that week.
fun fact, Ryan, most people don't know about you?
Fun fact: I grew up in Gary, Indiana. I don't know if a lot of
Oh,
people know
AKA
about
the
that.
region.
AKA the region 219. Shout out Michael Jackson was
That's
talked
right.
about earlier. Hometown. So I don't know how many people actually know that about me.
Yeah,
But
Ryan. We
that's
knew
my
you were
little fun.
hood. We knew you
Okay.
were
Okay,
hood.
Brad, fun fact about you, most people don't know.
I was on the Today Show when I was 10 years
Were you
old.
really?
Yeah.
What?
My dad was being interviewed. He was umpiring the Little League World Series, and I got to stand behind him. And my uncle was like, "Just give me like an ear."
So you were like Fernando Mendoza's little brother, basically.
Yeah. Check. Yeah. Yep. So yeah, I was on the Today Show.
That's crazy.
Okay.
I like this one, and I think I know who I would answer. Who in our group would survive the longest on Survivor?
Brad.
This is Brad hands down.
Really?
Brad,
I don't know.
Brad can make fire. Brad can
Right.
do all kinds of things.
I
So, like,
might throw a
Suit,
vote in
not
for-
even close.
yes.
Maybe
I
10
do-
years ago.
I
Not
do-
even close.
I do survival camping. I do all kinds of crazy
Suit, the
stuff.
answer is Brad.
I know. I could name at least 3 people right now who have told me that I am on their apocalypse team.
Same.
So like, when it goes down, Brad, I'm calling you. I'm like, well, I can't be at all these places at once.
Let's reverse it. Who'd be the least? And I'm gonna say myself.
You think so?
I do.
You just
Well, the
get in
term,
the Jeep and go
the term
into the-
diva was used to describe soup before we jumped on
Drive
the
into
air.
the nuclear blast. Just turn the Jeep straight into the nuclear. Okay, I guess we are close to having to wrap up today's episode. Thanks all of you for joining us. It was great seeing you. Be sure to make sure you tell people about the show. We want to see you next month as well.
What's the date? March 5th?
Six, I think.
March
Is it
6th.
March
Okay.
6th,
Yeah.
and everything's always on crossroadscrewlive.com. Is that
Live.
And then you
Crossroads
can
Crew
go
Live.
okay?
you can go to
dot
the
live, yeah.
YouTube channel afterwards too. Which if you go to YouTube and just put in the @ symbol and then Crossroads Crew one word, and you'll find our YouTube channel to watch the replay.
Absolutely. Let's get a last word from everybody just to close us out. What's a final,
What do you got, Bart?
just a last
Thoughts?
encouraging thought?
AI, just put in the reps. You're not gonna get any better if you don't put in the reps.
From an admission cycle standpoint, it's the shortest month of the year, but it is the most important one, in my
Yeah.
opinion. So make the most of it.
Love it. I would just say stay positive, hang in there, lean on your team, support each other, lift each other up. It's not easy what we do, but we're all in it together.
Yeah, and I was going to say something similar to soup, so I'll go this way. Make sure you're prioritizing yourself, meaning, again, if you don't take care of yourself, it's really hard, especially if you're a leader, to take care of other people, but to take care of these students and families that you're trying to connect with.
You know, I think we talked a lot about affordability. Just listen. Just listen to your staff members, your audience, everything. Listen.
Awesome.
We appreciate you guys. Thanks for joining today, and we'll see you next month. Brad, take us out.
We are the Crossroads crew, bringing that fire to you. From the dorms to the boardrooms to raise up the you. Raise up the you. Every day we see it through. Higher ed dreams coming true. Brad Ward, drop the beat, let the whole place move. Crossroads crew.